The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the village of Ekinlalo. Located in the heart of the southwestern part of Nigeria, the village was surrounded by thick forests, with trees so tall they seemed to scrape the sky. The air was filled with the hum of life, birds chirped, insects buzzed, and the river that wound its way through the village gurgled softly. The villagers were a vibrant, close-knit community, bound by tradition and the land they revered. While welcoming to visitors, they were fiercely protective of their customs. It was into this world that Oluwasian, or Seun as he was more commonly known, arrived. Tall, with dark skin that gleamed in the sunlight and eyes that shone with both intelligence and compassion, Seun was a young missionary who had felt a strong call to serve. He had grown up in Lagos, where he had trained in medicine and theology. His heart was set on one thing, bringing both healing and the word of God to the people of Ekinlalo. Seun's first few days in the village were spent observing and learning. He quickly earned the trust of the villagers by treating their ailments and helping where he could. His medical knowledge was seen as a blessing, and soon, people were coming to him not only for physical healing but for spiritual guidance as well. But there was something about Ekinlalo that troubled Seun. Beneath the surface of the village's vibrant life, there was a sense of something dark, something hidden. He couldn't put his finger on it, but the whispers in the market, the sidelong glances from the elders, and the way some people abruptly stopped talking when he approached made it clear that the village held secrets. One afternoon, as Seun sat by the river cleaning his medical tools, he saw a figure approaching from the other side. She moved with the grace of someone who knew the land well, her slender frame wrapped in a simple but elegant cloth. As she drew nearer, Seun recognized her, Kemi, the village's renowned herbalist. Kemi was a woman of striking beauty, but it was her calm, almost mysterious demeanor that drew people to her. Her long, dark hair was tied back with a strip of cloth, and her deep brown eyes held a wisdom beyond her years. She was known for her skill in healing, using herbs and remedies passed down through generations. But, as Seun had learned, she was also known for something else, a shadow that hung over her and her family. "Good afternoon, Seun," Kemi said softly, her voice carrying a hint of weariness. "Good afternoon, Kemi," Seun replied, smiling warmly. "How are you today?" She hesitated for a moment, her gaze drifting to the flowing river. "I am well, thank you," she said finally, though her voice lacked conviction. They fell into a comfortable silence, the sound of the river filling the space between them. Seun wanted to ask her about the rumors he had heard, about her family, about the whispers of a curse, but he held back. Instead, he studied her face, wondering what burdens she carried. "Have you settled in well?" Kemi asked after a while, breaking the silence. "Yes," Seun replied. "The people have been very kind. I feel welcome here." Kemi smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "That's good. This village has a way of welcoming outsiders, but it also has its secrets." Seun's heart skipped a beat at her words. He had sensed as much, but hearing it from her made it all the more real. "I've noticed," he said carefully. "There's something I can't quite put into words. But I feel it." Kemi turned to face him fully now, her eyes locking with his. "There are things in Ekinlalo that even the elders don't speak of openly. But you should be careful, Seun. This place holds a history, one that doesn't easily let go of the past." Seun felt a chill run down his spine. He wanted to press her for more, but Kemi's expression told him it wasn't the time. Instead, he nodded and changed the subject, asking her about the herbs she used in her healing. But even as they spoke, Seun couldn't shake the feeling that Kemi was keeping something from him. Something important. A few weeks passed, and Seun's presence in the village grew more pronounced. He had started conducting evening prayers with the villagers, combining his medical treatments with teachings from the Bible. His work, however, was interrupted by something he hadn't anticipated: rumors about Kemi. It began subtly. One evening, as Seun sat around the fire with a few villagers after their prayers, an old woman named Mama Risi whispered to another that Kemi, she carries a burden. Her family is cursed, you know. The other woman nodded gravely, her eyes darting around as if afraid to be overheard. Yes. They say her mother died mysteriously, and her grandmother before that. It's the curse, they say. Seun's ears pricked up, but he remained silent, pretending not to have heard. He waited until the conversation shifted before excusing himself. As he made his way back to his hut, the words of the old woman echoed in his mind. Cursed. The next morning, Seun sought out Bobaton, Kemi's father and one of the village's most respected elders. Bobaton was a man of few words, but his wisdom ran deep. His weathered face and white hair spoke of a life lived in service to his people. Seun found him seated under a large Iroko tree, carving a piece of wood with careful precision. Bobaton, Seun greeted respectfully. The elder looked up, nodding in acknowledgement. Seun, my son. What brings you here? I wanted to ask you about something I've been hearing, Seun began, choosing his words carefully. The villagers, they speak of a curse. One that has affected your family. Bobaton's hand stilled, and for a moment, the only sound was the rustling of the leaves in the wind. He sighed deeply before setting down his carving tool. "Oh, the curse," he said quietly, his voice heavy with resignation. "Yes, it is true. Our family has been haunted by it for generations." Seun felt a knot tighten in his stomach. What kind of curse? Bobaton leaned back, his eyes clouded with memory. It began many years ago. Our ancestors made a blood pact with another family in this village. A pact meant to bring peace and prosperity, but instead, it brought destruction. The pact was sealed with a ritual, and ever since, the firstborn daughters in our family have been cursed to die young, often under mysterious circumstances. Seun's heart sank. He had seen the pain in Kemi's eyes, but now he understood the weight she carried. My wife was the last to fall victim to the curse, Bobaton continued, his voice thick with sorrow. Kemi was just a child when it happened. She doesn't remember much, but I fear the curse will soon claim her as well. Seun's mind raced. He had always believed in the power of faith and prayer, but how could he help Kemi when the village itself seemed resigned to the curse's inevitability? I don't believe curses hold power over us, Seun said, his voice firm. I believe in God's power, in love, in the strength of the human spirit. There has to be a way to break this. Bobaton's eyes flickered with something, hope, perhaps, or maybe just the desire to believe. I pray you are right, my son. But be careful. This village holds many secrets, and some are better left undisturbed. Seun couldn't rest. The more he thought about Kemi and the curse that plagued her family, the more determined he became to uncover the truth. He spent his days treating the villagers and his nights poring over the ancient texts and scrolls Bobaton had shared with him. But the answers remained elusive. Kemi, too, seemed to sense the growing tension. She became more distant, her once warm smile now tinged with sadness. Seun knew she was trying to protect him, to keep him from becoming too entangled in her family's dark history. But he couldn't stay away. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky turned a deep shade of indigo, Seun sought out Kemi. He found her by the river, her usual spot of solace. "Kemi," he called softly, approaching her. She turned to face him, her expression unreadable. "Seun. I can't stand by and do nothing," Seun said, his voice urgent. "I know about the curse. I've spoken to your father. But there has to be a way to stop it. We can break it, Kemi. Together." Kemi's eyes filled with unshed tears. "I've lived with this my entire life, Seun. It's a part of me. I've always known that my time here would be short. My mother, she knew it too." "No," Seun said fiercely, stepping closer to her. "It doesn't have to be this way. Curses are born out of fear, out of hatred, out of darkness. But love is stronger. We can fight this." Kemi shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "You don't understand. This curse is real. It's taken so much from me already. I can't ask you to risk your life for something that may be impossible to change." Seun took her hands in his grip firm but gentle. "You're not asking. I'm offering. Whatever this is, We will face it together. For a moment, they stood in silence, the river's gentle flow the only sound between them. Kemi looked into Seun's eyes, searching for something, perhaps the strength she needed, or the hope she had long since buried. "All right," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We'll do this together." The villagers were divided in their opinions. Some supported Seun and Kemi, admiring their bravery. Others feared that tampering with the curse would bring calamity upon the village. The elders remained tight-lipped, unwilling to interfere in something that had haunted Ekinlalu for generations. As the days passed, Seun and Kemi worked together, trying to uncover the truth behind the curse. They sought out Bobasola, an elderly man who had once been close to Kemi's mother. Bobasola had lived through the curse's torment and had always feared speaking of it openly. But when Seun and Kemi approached him, his weathered face softened. "You're brave to face this," Bobasola rasped, his voice a shadow of what it once was. "But bravery alone won't be enough." They pressed him for information, and Bobasola revealed the dark history of the curse. It was a blood feud between families, sealed by a ritual that demanded a sacrifice. Kemi's family had been cursed, and the firstborn daughter's life was the price. Seun's heart ached as he listened. The burden Kemi had carried was unimaginable, and yet, she had done so with grace and strength. But he refused to believe that the curse was unbreakable. The night of the ritual came, and the village gathered in a tense silence. The air was thick with fear and anticipation. Bobaton had prepared the ceremonial items, his heart heavy with the knowledge that his daughter's life hung in the balance. Seun stood by Kemi's side, his resolve unshaken. He had searched for answers, for a way to break the curse without death, but time had run out. And so, as the ritual began, he made a choice. "I offer myself as the sacrifice," Seun declared, his voice steady and strong. The villagers gasped in shock, and Kemi tried to pull him back, but Seun stood firm. "This ends now," he said, looking into her tear-filled eyes. "The curse ends with me." As the ritual unfolded, a gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing the ceremonial flames. The oppressive weight of the curse lifted, dissipating like a dark cloud finally pierced by sunlight. Seun's selfless act had broken the chains that had bound Kemi's family for so long without the need for death. Kemi rushed to Seun, her tears flowing freely. "You saved me," she whispered. "No," Seun replied, pulling her into his arms. "We saved each other." In the days that followed, the village celebrated Seun and Kemi. Their love, courage, and defiance of fear became the stuff of legend. Ekinlalu, once overshadowed by a dark history, was now a place of hope and healing. Seun and Kemi walked hand in hand through the village, knowing that they had not only saved each other, but had transformed their community. In the end, it wasn't fear or sacrifice that had broken the curse, it was love. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss an inspiring tale. Your support helps us continue sharing these messages of faith, hope, and love. See you in the next video.